They can flex out a little bit, maybe take some more risk, because we know Sonics are a team that if they lose one player, they're not likely to turtle. They'll still play the game as if they're 4 up. So there's a couple of things I'm going to have my eye on. The one thing I'm noticing right now is we haven't got a funky play in the last game, that's him.
Well, okay, look. You say that like the interesting circles were happening. I find them fun circles, and I know the players don't agree, but I know I'm an agent of chaos. I like to see rough circles because I love to see the way that these players handle them. I think that's one of the great things that you can take away and apply into your own game. Like, okay, whenever the circle's set up like this, that last game, a prime example showing locations on how Zenith manages to traverse up into a great position. I mean, we even learned something in the round before this on how you can make your way up on a specific path on the military base island. So these are the takeaways that I love to see. So, but let's be real, we're kind of due for a central circle. I'm kind of feeling one could be coming around here in a second.
We are. I mean, all those things, that's what I talk about when we see kind of the vanilla play of rotate, fight, and, you know, seeing these teams in weird spots. And, you know, Illusion, like we said, the team that traversed the cliff over on the south side of Sosnovka, actually making it to second place. Those are kind of interesting storylines to follow through the game, as opposed to, you know, team rotates circle 1 and they end up where the game's going to finish. But we are definitely due a central circle.
Look at that. I threw a double negative at it. See,
rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat.
El Pozo on that plane path. That is, whew, hard. Houston Hardships, live up to your name. You are inside the hard-shifted circle right now. As well as, let's see, we got Rumblers, Veritas, Sonics, ATC, Shoot to Kill, kind of, and Relo from Oath. Everybody else, especially we've got a lot of Los Leones teams. Enjoy driving for a bit, because you're going to have to figure out how fast you want to loot and how fast you want to get in the circle. Hi, Poc. You've explained how to handle the circle beforehand and how early movement is important. Would you like to give us a recap?
Well, you know, I talked about last map of, again, similar circle to this one, and obviously previously the plane path was horizontal across. Now with this being obviously from north to south, it doesn't create that kind of congestion over on the north and south side. There's now a lot of space available for these teams to wrap, which again, we have the same obstacles this time around. You have that high ground around Crater Fields, everything east of Pozo. Those are areas that, you know, there's going to be a few, I said this in game 3, there's going to be a few teams that desperately try and center up on this one. This time around it's going to be much more difficult, because you're having to drive through teams to get to that central position. Unless you're Veritas hard shifts, I can always see them making moves on the map already, but lots of these teams that previously opted to center up on a similar circle, they've got way more obstacles in their way this time around. So again, expect to see a lot of teams looking to wrap, try and get into the least congested part of circle 1, and then kind of leapfrog, scout their way in. But the problem
Just
being, anybody,
I was going to say, we have 2 teams that are already opting into doing that. Way to the north, it's going to be Dodge and Gascans making a little bit of a play. Gascans, we've seen kind of be the early aggressors, this time going for a very northern position, which is more of a structural change for them. Usually they'll kind of be getting involved in what's going on. But unfortunately for Dodge, you're the only team around, and Gascans has seen you. So let's see how that plays out.
Yeah, the interesting thing is Honey Badger's obviously caught sight of this, but Lampalot and Finna still over in Torre and Campo Militar. So Danny G and Adam, obviously Dodge, usually we would expect them over in Pozo, as the previous game showed us. Veritas actually as well, just to make a footnote, we'd said in the previous game we've seen them dive that barn compound very early on. Again, we're before the 4-minute mark. Keenan has already found his way over to the barn outside Pozo. So it's again a similar pattern for some of these teams that, like I said, they haven't got a wrap. They can get quick access to this circle. You're going to expect them to see in the spots that they would usually play. Other teams, like, you know, a couple of teams out on the east side, I mean, Gascans, Dodge, Zenith, are all teams now that aren't going to be able to repeat that process from game 3.
A lot of the teams are still leaning back down towards the southern positioning, away from El Pozo and the craters themselves. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of teams that maybe kind of ended up in a good position, seeing if maybe they can end up around that. Let's be real. We don't know how the circle is going to go and how similar it's going to be to the last one, just due to the nature of hard shift upon hard shift, and not even similarly directed hard shifts in the last round. So while we do have a similar first circle, that doesn't say anything about where we can be going from here.
No, it doesn't. And then the other thing to consider as well with that is everybody's going to have that previous game in their mind.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a tendency to not want to over-rotate. I'm expecting a little bit of congestion around Power Grid, maybe up kind of northwest of San Martin, up towards the plane crash. Maybe some teams just getting into Circle 1 and saying, we're going to see where this one goes. Because we saw how many teams committed to center, and that first shift away, Circle 2, obviously that first shift away from the center just created madness for these teams trying to find space.
We got a lot of teams that did opt into early movement, but also a couple of them that are kind of tailing back behind this. You can see the Fabled, One Eye Open, Houston Hardships just starting their rotation, actually opting more towards Chumacera, seeing if maybe it might be a southern shift. That would be very favorable for them if it does end up going that way.
Good luck
Duel
with that
still
one.
outside the circle. Yeah, with the way that these circles have been going and the way that they like to just bounce along this outer rim, who knows? I mean, maybe it's like 200 IQ, maybe it's just a gamble. We'll have to see. T8, not inside the circle yet, and only 2 members from Dodge still. Gascans have made their way all the way back over towards the west, kind of along that trailer park El Pozo line right now. ATC do have themselves a very centered location with the closest centered team to them going to be Veritas.
Yeah, Veritas obviously this time around not having that, I guess, pressure from Dodge over their compound. As they're going to maintain this 2-2 split across the road, as you can see now on the left side of the screen with the map up. STK actually getting over onto the east side of Pozo, and we know that Dodge was split in rotation. It's just off screen, but the other 2 members of Dodge are actually up north of Cobra. You can just see their name tags entering the picture now. So going to be interesting if Dodge try and pressure STK away from coming into Pozo. But with Alo and Luke up on the high ground to the east, I don't expect Kurt and Uncivil to want to push in any further. Just coming down south to Pozo, you got Hardships, Gascans, and Illusion.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Gascans is still stretching back down past El Pozo. They're continuing. We talk about the fact these guys like to fight, and it looks like they're still just trying to listen in for any firefight that they can get involved in. Looks like they could be bumping into Illusion, but it's overall a pretty quiet circle right now. Everybody's kind of calm and just trying to get a feel for what's happening around them after having to make a very long rotation into point.
Yes, I mean, lots more teams have actually, again, not as heavy a stack towards the center as Game 3, but lots of teams managing to find their way in here. Gascan's actually getting up onto Free Me Please inside this compound here, and they're actually going to find him straight away.
It's just such a good double peek right there, man.
It is, really, really clean.
That's like one of the things that we see Gascans execute so well. It's not just mindlessly running around. They've been on the hunt. They've been paying attention to what's going on. They're listening for who's shooting at them. And they're kind of like using themselves as bait sometimes whenever they can't find that third party. And the way that they execute building breaches right now is just so dominant.
It is, yeah. And I mean, this is the risk, really, if you're still running a split like this in the circle. Not necessarily a dead center position, but, a team wrapping in, they're going to be coming as 4. And especially when you think about this is maybe the extremity of what's considered the center of the circle. That team coming in as 4, they're going to opt for that crash. They're always going to do that because they're out of options. Right? They probably scout that. They see one person, they pull up straight away. So Illusion getting a little bit punished there, but we'll see if they can still maintain over on the west side.
Allow me to kind of sell myself for a second here. If you guys didn't catch the episode of Pull-Ups, we can see Veritas and Sonics are both playing a very similar position as where they were inside that Pull-Ups episode. So if we see a very centered circle come into play, that's going to be a very powerful point for both of those teams. This time, though, look, hey, we were talking about the Hardships that were playing back around next to the south, decided to go back over Monte Nuevo, left the Chumacera. I bet you they're kind of regretting leaving that Chumacera area now. They are going to have Monte Nuevo towards themselves, but northern teams have a lot of fun because that is a clustered northern section of the circle.
Yeah, I guess head back to Tuma. It's more than likely going to end up there. Again, there's lots of teams that are going to have to make moves here, and with everybody kind of gravitating towards the center, a lot of the south side of the previous circle was open. So, Fabled able to make quick moves down to the south. Rumbler's actually able to hold on to a position. Hardshift's able to kind of collapse back to one side of their split. Gascans coming down into Monty as well. But a few teams heading up across the power grid plateau. We've got Tactical 8, ATC, and Oath all kind of trailing each other in rotation. And Sonic setting up an ambitious split, I'm going to be honest, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be running through that crossfire that could be potentially set up. Oath are just going to bypass their positioning, shoot to kill. You can see them in the process of just trying to encroach around next to Veritas's location. Not even with all of their members. They still left one back over in El Pozo at the time. You can see T8 cutting along the path. Now, T8, this might not be the pathing that you want to take. First off, you're going to have to contend with a couple of shots coming out from Veritas, and even if you manage to make it through here, Hardships are already going to have a line set up, as well as Gascans might be able to take a firing line, and Sonics. So while Zealot did manage to make it through the first part, let's see where his quest continues off to, is still shots going to be raining in from the guys on Veritas. First line's going to make it through. Zealot is going to go ahead and get spot out from J-Sank and is going to go down. You can see a very quick exchange back and forth back as the approach goes through, and it looks like T8 says, okay, that's not the good angle. Let's cut back over towards the east, and guess what? That's where Sonic's going to be posted at.
Yeah, and I mean, that split looking mighty juicy now. Nobody's really come across the pressure either of those compounds. Veritas still holding on to the red brick here. Shoot to kill obviously getting up in between their split. Could be an issue for them, but we'll have to wait and see. I don't expect SDK to really try and make too many moves here. They're probably going to, from that position, wait out at least. We know how often, obviously, these circles tend to gravitate towards Monty just by pure luck. It's actually pretty surprising. I mean, I'm banking on the Ladriera finish. They're always the most exciting to see, but we'll have to wait and see where we pull towards.
I mean, either that or even going Chumacera. I mean, I'm all about vertical firefight inside of a city. It's always fun. Monte is the center right now, so most of the teams are already in position, taking a couple of shots here and there towards each other, but nothing too detrimental just quite yet. Zenith, the last team that's going to be making their way into the zone, going to go ahead and circle back down, way down next to Chumacera. See, Dodge does have control back over towards the west, really fairly uncontested. They've got the illusion that's back down towards the south of their point that they're playing at right now, but they're using this road as kind of like their own little defensive barricade from everything that's kind of the mess that's happening back over towards the north around Monty, and back over along that I don't even want to say it's necessarily Ladrilla. It's more like to the east of that point, even, where just people are kind of clustered along that hillside.
It is indeed. This one coming down there, we're going to see where we're headed in the next couple of seconds. Again, not too many casualties falling in that, to be honest, and Circle is going to post up, which is why we're seeing Snaker stare at the wall here inside his map, I'm assuming. Other than, I guess, admiring the work on that banister. But Circle did post up, just centered up, just south of Monte Nuevo. So Rumbler's position looking pretty good right now. They're actually going to opt to regroup along to the roadside compound here. A couple of other teams making moves as well.
Gaskin's position is pretty good right now, it feels, as well. The question is, can they defend Monte Nuevo from the onslaught of teams that might try to spin in there? Looks like Veritas might be the first contender to think to do so. See Sonics holding down their defensive line, ATC creeping up back behind them, but probably not going to encroach all the way into that point. First shot's going to come out from the Gascans, does connect back over towards Michael. You can see the crash does land, and good defensive lineup coming out from the Gascans right now. Keenan's going to be playing along in a lot of very wide open windows. That's why he's going to just kind of lean his back against this. Dietrich does get spotted out as well. A quick exchange coming back all over. This is a very dominant defense coming up from Gascans, and that was very quickly over as they all run over to loot up those tasty, tasty bodies.
Yeah, again, just no fear coming out of the Gascans right now. They're just they're looking so good in these. You got to say scrappy team fights, but it's the kills are in quick succession. They're stacked up, and you can tell there's a plan. It's not this reactionary, looking for a pick or trying to capitalize on a pick. They're moving kind of with purpose.
Yeah, and that just leads to great communication. In order to execute as quickly as they did to that crash, that they have to be very quickly relaying how they want to approach fights and executing based off of that. I mean, and then there's a little bit of just playing together and having a feel for what the other person's going to do, but it just seems to be like they're so organized in the chaos that they create. It just makes me feel like they just have a good grip on what's happening, and everybody is being able to relay that information. Back over towards the south, you can see that Zenith's starting to make their approach on a very similar line that Oath just passed through. Duel's going to be coming back over towards the west from this point. Looks like Oath is going to continue crest back over, making their way back along the line that Fabled looks like they're holding down. Looks like Zenith is going to be able to get down to that point, and Oath also getting into a point as well. So starting to settle back along this line. Really, it just feels like, is Duel going to come in and create any chaos for these guys? They're starting to get a little bit more defended up.
And again, just not taking too many casualties with that circle shift. Not too much of a migration, which, you know, it does kind of explain really why we're seeing so many teams stacked up. Nobody really maintaining these splits early on. Everybody trying to hold on to what they've got. And no real ballsy rotations coming out. This next shift, I think, is going to be the one where we maybe see a little more action. I mean, lots of teams stacked up down to the south. Obviously, Fable up on the hilltop compound. You got Oath down in my least favorite compound in the entire game, but it's actually going to be in the next circle, so I'll eat my words. I hate leaving that too. It's notoriously difficult to leave. That's why it's
surrounded by hilltops, and everybody is just going to murder you if you have to leave. But if Oath doesn't have to leave, you don't have to worry about getting murdered just quite yet. So, leaving Monte Nuevo behind, looks like we're going to see the shift back over towards the east. There is a lot of wide open kind of plains that are going to be back over towards the northern area right now. Shoot to Kill trying to make a pass back over towards it. You can see the T8's kind of got the defensive line set up. Gascan's going to be going and cut it down towards the south along with Rumblers. Don't forget Sonics is in a good position as well, playing in a good point to really harass people that are playing along that very flat positioning. Purdy Curdy's going to go for a peek back over, but Weem's going to go ahead and connect back over towards it as well, get the drop onto him. A couple of shots going back and forth between the two of them. Luke 12 does have himself a nice positioning back behind this, but it's uncivil, playing from that high ground that's getting a lot of work put out. As I say that, though, it's going to be Rumbler's Waldo from really far away. Gets a good sight line back over towards him, does connect, and now Alo finding himself in a little bit of trouble with Luke 12 back behind him, not getting the path that they wanted to take to make it inside the circle.
Yeah, the third party from Rumbler's a good 500 or 600 meters away from the compound. We saw them collapse back toward, I guess, collapse away from that split they were holding on to. So SDK down to 2 now.
There's
maybe going to be able to, I was going to say, maybe able to going to find something on the hillside there, but it's definitely not going to be easy for them to sit there. Actually, looks like they're sending it straight towards Oldless, in between Oldless and Sonics, actually, and it literally running the gauntlet right now, as we see Wooly pulling up onto the backside of the hill. Maybe looking for something onto the back of Zenith, who, here we go, is where Luke...
Get to the check! No!
Yeah, well, you can see there where they tried to drive through. It was literally through 3 teams.
And look at how open it is. You can't drive through this. It's just a death trap.
Well, like we said, just not many options there.
Shoot to Kill had to send it. So before everybody's just like, oh, why did Shoot to Kill do that? They had nothing they could do. Based off positions from Gascans, Rumblers, they couldn't stay at their present point. T8 was already defending up. Sonics was also starting to get into a harass point. They just had to send it through, maybe make it to the shack, and they just could not do it. On the other side of this, though, you can see that it's going to be the hard shifts under a little bit of pressure now as Illusion's starting to stretch their legs back over towards them. Got to be a little bit careful off of it. As you can see, One Eye Open does have an angle to play with. One Eye is going to be coming back over onto an angle with this, as well as Dodge. It's going to be creeping back up along this hillside. Icy Flex does get a spot out, but it's going to be, again, a strong performance coming up from Jason to go ahead and flush that one out, but they need to get this res off fast. Dodge is really running up this hillside. Adam sees the fact that the fight might have ended at this point, so this might slow down Dodge's push.
I like this.
But at any given point, they do have a lot of control in what's happening around this. One Eye Open, who was harassing earlier, going to go ahead and reposition just a little bit. Now has to contend with Fable, allowing this to be a little bit more of an open play. And yeah, Dodge going to go ahead and move from that low ground point, make an advancement up to the side of this, right as soon as you can see Hardships were trying to reposition off of it. A couple shots going to go through, but it's going to be Fable that provides a little bit of defense. Lobes is just clustered down inside of this house with nowhere to go. He knows he's surrounded from this point forward. He's not got a lot of options for himself. Peeks back around, has to be careful. Fable goes ahead and connects on the side of it, but Finn is going to go ahead and eat that one up.
Really good push from Dodge, though. Great use of utility there. You saw the smoke off both of the upstairs windows and then wrap round to the side of the building that had no windows. They couldn't stop that push. And obviously, I mean, Jay-Sang sending it in the vehicle, leaving Lopes to kind of play spoiler on that situation. It was good to kind of keep one up. But really, really well thought out push from Dodge there to get up onto the backside of that 2-story. So good stuff from them. Again, similar situation to the previous circle. Majority of this is just open terrain. There's a couple of dips, a couple of ridges, but not really any spaces in the center of the circle for a 4-man to play, Matt. So yeah, it's going to be really difficult. We're going to have a lot of fighting down to the south side. Oath now need to come out of that valley compound. Both Zenith and Duel up on the high ground overlooking that. But again, where do you move to here? You're going to have to take a fight on the edge, and most of the fights on the edge aren't going to result in a position that's in the circle.
Yeah, there's just too many teams that were playing edge on the last one, and this one just shifts in the cruelest of ways to make it to where all those teams along the south, all the way stretching towards the west, are going to have to now, sure, they don't have to move far, but the distance is not the big factor. It's the lack of cover and the amount of teams that are going to have sight lines to work with and really just harass them. It's going to be a lot of third and fourth parties just popping off all over the place. You can see Duel trying to get a little bit more aggressive back over towards Zenith, who does have an inside track. Oath moving around the other side of them towards the west. Relo's kind of looking back and forth between what's happening right now. A couple of good shots are going to connect from Fable to go ahead up towards the north. TAC 8 does go down, trying to encroach in that area that we saw Sonics and Gascans really defending beforehand. Zenith now finds themselves in a pincered point, and it looks like Fable wants to go ahead and fourth party back behind Oath. So while Oath does have themselves a little bit of a dip, Snakers does go down. Fable now has a different line sight that they can try to play up on. They can just creep up right back behind this and get the shots right into Oath's backside, and that's forcing them to really fight on two different points. Patcap's now the last one up, and not anywhere for him to really go. He's just kind of watching what's happening back down on this hillside. He's just hoping that maybe Fabled stretches back over towards Zenith's positioning, but it's still a continued fight up along the side of this, popping off between Duel. Finally, we can see a quick exchange as Fable does spot out Patcaps, take him down, and it's still just the high ground fight that's going on. Way over towards the west, there is also still a fight that's going on between Dodge and Gascans, but we're going to try to stay on top of this one as Duel is still just trying to press their way forward, finally picking up a kill, and Zenith is just clustered into the hillside, just trying to throw down smoke, seeing if they can buy a little bit more time for themselves.
Yeah, Boo's just going to follow up on his flashbang there. Just get the first one. Unfortunately, can't turn on the second. Penta coming out. The better one. He finds the second as well. Kickstart falls. Linksy getting knocked again. And Wooly going to bleed out. So Penta the last man standing. But what an absolute brawl here on the south side. And fully expecting this with the setup previously. Penta not out of the woods just yet, though. Here come Fable. They're able to recover from that fight from Oath now. Penta again, can he get anything done? No, he can't. Hella will pick that one up, and Duel will fall in ninth place. So down to our top 8 here. Circle just gravitating towards the Sonics. Again, so much open space in this circle here. You can see Gaxi sending it towards the shack to try and get a forward position for the Rumblers, but just not many options. Even after those fights on the edge now, this is exactly what I was talking about. It doesn't grant any of these teams a good spot in the circle.
Gascans kind of eyeing back over towards Rumblers, who do have themselves a compound that they can play from, but don't want to play it too aggressively just quite yet. When I open, also kind of eyeing back over this direction. Last member that is up for the hardships, also kind of hearing what's happening. Looks like Guadalajara Gascans have found their approach vector that they're wanting to take. There's a couple of grenades that are going to slow them down just a touch, but yet again, it's going to be Honey Badger just trying to carve a path for his team, seeing the fact that he can be enough of a distraction, hit the shots, and really just try to step his way through. The problem with it is now it's actually the Sonics that are in now having some type of sightline to play around. Fortunately, though, Fable tries to make a send right through the center of the map, draw Sonic's attention away from this, allowing Gascans to continue their press up and forward. Fable do manage to make themselves a little bit of a foothold, but it's not in the best of positions. Grenade's going to go ahead and land. Greg shot on near on no life. If this bounce is good, that should be able to tear down Rip. And yes, the Gascans are going to continue to try to move forward. Already one Rumbler down. McCoy at half life, laying back down onto the point. Comets have been kind of hearing everything that's going on. They're finally about to start making a move, but Lord only knows where they're going to go at this point.
Yeah, Honey Badger really unlucky with that spray onto the backside of McCoy, but here you go, Nikos and Voxic going to try and pressure on towards Lost HD. He's got to hold down the hanger here. Voxic actually gets the trade on that. Nikos did fall, but they were stacked up so well that it didn't become an issue for them. And now McCoy down to low HP. He's got to hold the line here because we already know everybody else on Rumblers has fallen. It's the last man standing for them. So Gascan's up to 11 kills, looking to make it 12. McCoy sending some utilities through, and actually he's going to try and capitalize off of that flash. Voxic has to tuck himself into the corner. McCoy doesn't find the second, though. Voxic finds it. Rumblers will fall, and Gascans will cling to life on the edge here, Matt.
12 kills for the Gascans right now, and they have themselves a compound in the circle. So they got to play it a little bit more carefully. Comets, on the other hand, do manage to get themselves inside the safe zone, but you can see the amount of terrain that they're working with. They've got themselves their Murado, kind of crouched at the top of the hill to try to deny a little bit more sight lines, but that's not going to be enough. There's just too many different firing lines to work with. ATC's got a flank off to one side, One Eye off to another point. Now that Gascans are a little bit more free, they might even be able to take pot shots back over here as well. Sonics are a little bit more distracted on what's going on in the low ground, but still just trying to rein in, get a little bit more damage on what's going on. One Eye tries to move down and forward. They're going to go ahead and get taken out based off of their approach. And the circle's going to go ahead and pop, and yet again, favors Sonics with a smidgen of the Gascans, as well as Fabled in their low position.
Color me surprised. The circle kept going to the north here, but Comets, I mean, they have to run the same gauntlet that Fable just had to. And you can see already the Murado smoking is missing. I assume the other two tires on the right side of the vehicle. ATC foaming at the mouth for these kill points. But again, ATC don't really have too many options. If they can deal with Greg, they can potentially set up on the opposite side of the road to Sonics, but it's not a great spot. It's inside throwables range. And Sonics have been sitting in the compound, so you got to assume they still have a lot of utility to use.
ATC making that push back over, and now going to have to contest with Fabled that are just trying to creep right along this dip next to the road. That's also kind of cornering out Sonic's movement at the time, just based off the fact that Gascans do have a little bit of a sight line. But Gascans can also look back down through this fairly efficiently, and you can see kind of harassing Marsalek in his positioning. Looks like Sonics might be opting to just continue to harass Comets back over there, as Comets are going to have to run back through this point, and it's not going to be pretty whenever they do. Shrimsy, what are you doing? Are you just bringing style, or are you just out of ammo? I feel like he had to switch over to a new gun, and he hits a headshot on the Nico.
H-Win's got one as well.
I love what is happening from the Sonics. This is what happens whenever you have that much of a point lead. Go ahead and start bringing in a little bit of style.
So they're running dual Winnies here.
Double the Winnies, double the fun, man. That's all I can say.
Somehow H-Win has 5 kills. What?
New meta. Let's bring in the Winnie. I want it. Let's make it a thing. And they are just wrecking Comets off to the side. Comets off to one point, but you can see ATC also in trouble from a different firing line there. Comets finally do go down off of good shots connected between the two of them, and now it's going to be ATC just trying to figure out, okay, we've got ourselves the dip, but where do we go? If they encroach forward, Gascans are going to have a sight line for them. If they creep up the hillside, Sonics are going to have a sight line on them.
Well, the problem is, I just saw Tig with 44 bullets total, and even less now. Nothing is in his M4. So maybe that's the reason they're running Winnies, because they've just run out of ammo.
I feel like they were just the guns on the ground.
Yeah, well, maybe so, but with Tig, when Tig's only got 25-5, you know something's up, because he's the type of player that's constantly active through the mid-game, pressuring teams, farming damage. So this could be a problem for Sonics in the end game if they just don't have any ammo left, because this circle has pulled away. There's still the corner of their compound is in.
Honey Badger, again, look at that. Grab the motorcycle, reposition back behind the shack, has himself a new distracting angle. That's just kind of Honey Badger's MO for what we've been seeing success coming up from the Gascans. Just move into aggressive point, really just start trying to bring attention back over towards you. And it's almost like an MMO, and he's the tank for his team. He moves into an aggressive spot, tries to get everybody's attention, and then tries to get something based off of that and open up new angles for his team. And it's working. ATC just cannot find out which angle that they want to deal with. Meanwhile, Sonics are just setting up more and more fortifications, seeing if they can maybe get a sight line back over towards the Gascans, but just can't quite seem to get it yet. Do note, the Gascans compound is not going to be in play, and they are about to have to move, and this is about to be bloody. See, the smoke's now starting to come out. Mime has to read what's going on. Marsalek actually does hit the shot back over towards him. There's a quick pickup coming up from Tig as well. Going to go ahead and use what remaining ammo they have to see if they can at least decimate the Gascans. Honey Badger is inside a zone, though, but ATC now starting to stretch out on the other side of the road to see if maybe they can contain the Sonics.
Yeah, a little bit of utility actually going over towards Sonics as well. The Molotov just cutting off the entry into that smoke. Honey Badger was pressuring onto the backside of ATC as well, so expect him to play spoiler from that position. Yeah, I mean, they've run out of ammo. Mime's running a Tommy gun.
Give us a melee. Just start punching, man. Just start punching. Throw all of your ammo on one person, see what you can get. You just got to get in range to start swinging, boys. H1 tries to get in swinging range. Doesn't quite work out, but it's going to be a quick follow-up coming up from Tig. Now inside the smokes, getting a stretched position. Looks back over towards ACC on the side. quick exchanges going back and forth. Mime, the last one up, just crawling through his down teammates to provide some type of defensive line for him. You can see Honey Badger still back behind this, starting to make a little bit of a play of his own, looking towards ATC, seeing if maybe he can connect, and good shot, gonna go ahead and pick that one off. Aguila, the last one up for his team. Mime now moving forward, moving into the last remaining smoke, narrowly does make it down into there with just a smidgen of life. So we are now in a firm position to look at this crosswise, where it is a 1v1v1. Aguila starting to look back over towards Honey Badger's position, gonna go ahead and get the tag back over towards Hwin. Get a little bit more space, trying to flush those out. It looks like the 2 remaining members from the other team are just like, I want the Sonics points. I want to get the kills back over towards them. Aguila creeping forward. Honey Badger doing the same, but it's going to be Mime on his belly, slow creeping forward on this little bit of a hill. Just trying to make some type of play. If he can get in range, he's got the bullets, 50 rounds. Mime might be able to make something happen. Honey Badger, who's been such a big component for his team, now starting to hop around, seeing if maybe he can spot what's going on, but doesn't get sightline back over to Aguila just quite yet. Aguila sitting on a ton of ammo, now starting to look back over towards Honey Badger's angle, and everybody down on their belly, slowly creeping forward. Looks like Honey Badger has an idea on where Mime might be at. Aguila keeps looking back over towards Gascans, last player of Honey Badger, and it is just a slow and steady approach. As the blue is closing back behind Aguila, he's going to have to be the first one to move out of this point, maybe moving into Mime's firing line, but no, he gets spots out, getting this down to a 1v1. Honey Badger spots it out, goes for the shots back over towards him, connects with a lot, but not quite enough, finally does manage to get it, and that's going to be Gascans with a hefty 18 kills.
Wow.